Hi and welcome to another episode of Straight Out of Camera, proudly sponsored by Fujifilm South Africa. Joining me live in studio today is Managing Director of TechSmart.co.za, Mike Joubert. Mike, how are you doing, sir?
Esli, Olma, how are you?
I'm very well. And live from Cape Town, commercial photographer Leon Oosthuizen. How's Leon?
Hey guys, like chatting again.
So today we're chatting about street photography and documentary photography, but also importantly how to create content for brands and to push content through, especially on an NGO level, to make people aware of what the situation is certain people are facing. So, Leon, how do you use photography and videography to create content that inspires or motivates people to become aware of situations?
I think it's important to find out who your audience is that you're speaking to, because that's the opinions that you want to either inform or change. And you can do that with exposure. So I think for me a very important tool is a small and light enough equipment like the one I'm using at the moment, the Fujifilm X-T2. It really has high quality video as well as still. So I can mix and match. I can put a set of microphones on the side, mic a conversation up and have a second angle. I can view it wirelessly and control it like that. So for me, that is an absolutely essential tool for the job. And when you go out, you have the flexibility to then go and approach people in different ways. Alongside with NGOs, obviously they already have a narrative, whether that's UNICEF or Save the Rhinos or whichever way it is, and you can really have meaningful, multifaceted conversations. And I think that's a good way to package it, and then you can drill into some details after that.
Mike, is there a specific way that you would utilize social media platforms to tell stories? I mean, I know that Instagram stories are becoming quite popular. Is there a specific rule or something that you need to follow as a photographer wanting to create content?
Well, for more and more people in the media field, you hear that video matters. So it's really, I think video is the future. If you would look at the success of, for example, People of New York on Facebook, where they started as just a photograph and a little story progressing through to now video, and it's like small little shorts that you see. So definitely I think if you can engage people via video, it's sometimes much more how can you say personal than just seeing a photo.
Yeah, when you have stills, I've had a conversation with a client of mine recently where he asked me to photograph his 2 Airbnb properties, and I happened to have a demo unit of a crane, which is, like I explained to most people, it's basically what you put your camera on, and when you move it around and you're doing a video, it does to the camera what an ostrich neck does for its head. It kind of keeps it exactly still. Doesn't matter where the body goes, the head goes nowhere, and that's exactly the crane. So I offered this walkthrough to him, and he said that this has revolutionized his business, because all of a sudden he could engage with his audience on different platforms, and also it informs people in different ways. So yeah, the video is definitely adding a lot of extra angles alongside, but it's not either or. I think they work well as a team.
Yeah, I like viewing properties, and sometimes these photographers that shoot these properties would use a very wide angle lens, and when you get to the property, the lounge is not the size that you physically see. But I see they're also introducing walkthrough videos into on Property 24 especially, where you can actually view it from more likely an eye sort of angle, so that you get perspective of the property itself.
We might not be there yet, but I think definitely down the line, virtual reality, tours in 360 degrees through properties, even engaging people in, for example, factory tours or something like that. If you do have a brand, that might be the future, although, I think bandwidth might be a problem right now.
Brandlive.co.za.
Have you ever thought about the power of social media? Social media has the power to make your business grow. Grow! Yeah. Why don't you let us manage your social media? Because our business is to see your business grow. Visit us at www.beastdownmedia.co.za.
Making a bold statement yet blending into the surrounding suburbs of Melville, 27 Boxes is a realization of edgy design and practical implementation. A radical departure from the shopping malls of our generation, yet not a return to the high streets of our youth. 27 Boxes showcases the best of a shopping centre set in a garden, surrounded by the bohemian suburb that is Melville. 27 Boxes, shop, play, eat. Harnessing the power of talk radio. brandlive.co.za.
Earl Abrams is a creative, a dot connector, and a photographer who was born on the Cape Flats in Bonteheuwel, Cape Town. Storytelling is a big part of the way he captures moments, as can be seen reflected in his personal projects. His experiences in the social development sector has most certainly contributed to the way he sees the world and the way he experiences and captures things through his lens. Earl says, photography to me is about sharing stories, experiences, and possibly giving voice to those who might not have the platform. Here to talk about content creation, Earl Abrams. Welcome to the SOOC podcast.
Yo, yo, yo. I feel like I'm a hip hop artist over here. Thank you so much for the opportunity, man. Really appreciate it.
No problem at all. So, you're a very engaging character. I've met you at the previous Photo and Film Expo. You seem to be very much comfortable with photography as well as videography. And that reflects in the project that you called Spoken Portraits. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So Spoken Portraits was born out of a kind of a very frustrating time in my life. I just resigned from my job, started freelancing, etc. And there wasn't enough work coming in. And I knew that I needed to get out. And one of my big passions is people. So I thought about, okay, cool, why don't I take a portrait and then get a little soundbite? And that's just basically how it started. Me being interested in getting to know people, or really just getting out of my box. And that's how it came to life. I started out with one question called, who are you? And then moved on to other specific questions like, why do you shoot? I'm really engaging with photographers and videographers. And at the core of it was really just trying to find out who people were and a little bit more about them.
It's interesting that you say that you started with just one small thing. I heard the creator of the Black Mirror TV series talking about exactly the same thing. Just start with something small, but persist with that thing, and eventually you will get known in the industry, or at least that project will move forward into different spaces. Is that correct?
So true, man. I agree with you on that one. I think that it's kind of it's a ripple effect. So you kind of start, and sometimes you don't know where it's going to go to. But what I realized that from Spoken Portraits, I started using that very same tool for organizations. So they could use that as a monitoring and evaluation tool after a workshop or after an experience that they had. Because I could immediately interview someone, you know who this person is. And yeah, there's just that. It's interesting how you can take a small concept and develop it. So I definitely agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I was fortunate to be one of the first speaking portraits that Earl did way back when he was a Cape Town. And the thing was really just it's something different. It's something so obvious but so different. And I think Earl, you did so well to
Thanks, man.
Nail it. It was that little bit of a blank space in between where everybody else didn't see him.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks so much. It's just important to sometimes you take an opportunity, you never know where it's going to go to. And yeah, sometimes it's just testing out different things, and I feel that we need to, in small ways, test out small projects as we go along. So thanks so much for that, Leon.
Also, give us a little bit of background on how did your venture in photography and videography start? Did you have a corporate job? Where did the creative process happen for you?
Okay, so I spent about 10 years in the NGO sector as a project manager and program coordinator. But then I was always shooting throughout that time. But I got introduced to photography and videography through inline skating, which other people would know as rollerblading. And yeah, that's how I got familiarized myself with equipment, because my friends had equipment. I didn't have my own. So I'd kind of use theirs and shoot as we'll go along, and we'll put together different video projects. So that's how I learned the fundamentals of photography and videography, just through my friends. And yeah, then I invested in my own camera about, could be 7 years ago. And yeah, as they say, the rest is history, man. Just got so immersed. I kind of moved away from skating or shooting specifically, just skating, and I merged the two. So I used my inline skates and my camera to kind of head into the city and just trying to see if I could view the world from a different perspective while skating.
And I can imagine composition might be a slight problem there.
Sometimes, yeah, because if you're moving and you're trying to grab a frame or two, but it was also interesting, man, because I felt that what I would see through walking, I wouldn't see the same thing on skates. So it's like two different worlds, and it opens you up to different opportunities or different content.
Yeah, it reminds me of that Jim Carrey movie, Yes Man, where
Okay.
they've got a photography group that are a bunch of runners, and they go and run and take portraits at the same time.
Actually, didn't see that.
So we spoke a little bit earlier about a project that you had called Coloured In,
Yeah.
where you take a look at the influence of the Group Areas
Yeah,
Act.
yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, perfect, man. So I signed up for a residency program at Amplify Studio, and I did about a 3 to 4 month residency over there. And a part of the project was for us to come up with a body of work. And my body of work that I came up with was titled Coloured In. And it looked at the impact of the Group Areas Act on, I would say, so-called coloured spaces. And I think that offline we can have a chat about what I mean by so-called, because there's a lot of interesting dynamics when it comes to that. And basically I looked at people, I looked at spaces, and I looked at the relationship between these people and these spaces, and also the relationship that they had with previous spaces or with the spaces that they were moved from. And yeah, it was a really interesting exploration, because I had to go back to my own community, and then I photographed communities surrounding the community that I'm from, 5 other communities. And yeah, I don't know what else to say, man. It was really just one that I'm still working through. And then I had the exhibition itself at Amplify Studio. It was quite successful, which I was really happy about. But and I'm still continuing the project, and I'm trying to bring the work up to Joburg to showcase over here.
What did you learn about yourself doing the project?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I'm hitting a bit of a blank. I think that it's a continuous process, because to me, going out was almost like journaling, you know, like documenting this work was like a journal, and I'm still reflecting on this work, because myself, I'm from these spaces, and I'm trying to figure out why did I have the opportunity to exit it and also have the life that I have now, but also how do I teach those principles when I go back, also empower other people going back, to not necessarily get out, because I don't feel that that's always the important thing or the thing that you need to do, but get out in your mind, not to be boxed in so much.
Tell me quickly, we've learned that you were born or you lived in the Cape Flats,
Sure.
and you've been working with NGOs, and I would imagine that it's harsh situations,
Yeah.
it's not easy. How do you stay so happy, dude? I mean, when I look at you, you're just the jumping jack of happiness. So how do you work in such situations and still maintain your personality the way you do?
That's my family, man. I don't know. I can just give it up to I grew up with my grandparents, and myself and my mom lived with my grandparents, and I give it up to them, because the cool thing was, like, the work that I was doing, they were doing it plus their day job, you know. So they were doing community work, going to old age homes, and that's the energy that they took into the spaces. So I think it's just from seeing it every day, seeing the way they kind of brought themselves into the spaces. That's what, to me, I don't feel that I can go into spaces and be like morbid or whatever, you know. So I have to kind of put myself aside and say, no, I need to approach this space from the next person, because generally sometimes in that work you are being of service, and the next person is more important than your worries or your concerns at that point.
Honestly, I'm so glad you asked that question, because I really do think, I mean, after all the chats Earl and I have had, he definitely breaks that boundary, because getting offended is good, but a lot of people are getting offended and complain or nag or point fingers. But Earl says, okay, cool, I'm offended by the ways that people have made choices before. Let's dream of a better place and start that conversation with the upbeat. Then I can, I don't know how you get the energy for it, but you say you draw a lot on your family.
Yeah.
uh, how are you planning on passing that on on a personal level?
Yeah.
We know you create lack of content, but how do you connect? What is your core there?
How do I plan on passing it on? So passing it on to people, my family, or
Yeah, what are your dreams if you sort of like carry that forward? Where do you
Okay.
see it going?
I think just to kind of stay a kid, but then I don't know. I have this thing in my mind of just forever remaining a kid, man, and just playing. Because that's why I still skate, because it allows me to just think about playing all the time. And then you have to do this thing called adulting, which is also a very important thing because you need to pay bills. But I think that just that aspect of remaining a kid or staying connected to different spaces. Because I still skate, the cool thing is I'm friends with people that are 12 and 13 years old. So you're able to relate with people at different levels. And then when you go into work, you're with people between the ages of 20 all the way up to 70. So I think that for me, it's creating a foundation or passing on a foundation to my family or friends and saying that try to find spaces that you can engage with different people with on different levels.
Anybody else? Any other takers there?
Well, when you go out and make images for yourself, when you start to tell stories, what is obviously you join dots, and you see the world the way you see it.
Sure.
You're comfortable that way, but maybe talk us a little bit through your creative process, more like nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think
I don't know where you end up, but what is your process when you put your first foot out the door?
Yeah.
You start with the concept and then develop it from there, or
Okay.
you do it organically. What do you do?
So I think it varies for different work. So when it comes to some of the kind of documentary and street stuff that I've been doing, I would kind of just get out. So after this podcast, I'm heading out to the city to go and skate and shoot. So basically choosing a location and just skating around and trying to find interesting things, or just kind of looking around, and maybe I won't even come out with anything. But that's the process with the kind of documentary and street stuff. When it comes to some of the more work that requires a lot more narrative, I spend a lot more time thinking through that. So I have so the same thing happened with the colored in body of work. I had to come up with a concept first, write the brief for the shoot, and then go out and shoot, so that I had something more of a plan to go out and shoot. So I have another concept that I'm working on called Sierra Alone. So it's looking at the impact of Sierra Leone's the flooding that's taken place. So at the moment, I'm kind of working on developing that project before I even go out and shoot. So I've scouted for locations. The second part is writing a brief for some of the people that I'm going to be photographing, so that they understand what mind frame they need to enter the shoot as. And then shooting it and spending my time editing, That's kind of the process at the moment. Before, I realized that I was shooting, especially with the documentary and street stuff, shooting to post content on Instagram and online, which is quite an interesting thing. And I've taken a step back for this month, and now I'm somewhat struggling to approach my photography again, because I'm like, okay, if I'm going to shoot, where am I posting it on?
Yeah, I think you need to share what you're doing this month, because you've sort of stopped doing Instagram at all.
So I'm stopping kind of all social media platforms just for a month to kind of see what happens, and to see what happens with my work specifically, to see if I can kind of dig in deeper and not shoot to show.
Yeah. I think it's a good thing. I think we've perhaps progressed too far into the world of social media, and you're not doing the projects kind of like for yourself.
Yeah.
You're doing the projects for the likes. We talked about this constantly throughout the podcast. The fact that do you spend time on time and effort and money on going to photography school, or do you kind of learn things by yourself? And one of the things we chatted to you about was the fact that assisting established photographers teaches you such a lot, and you can really learn about certain things in the studio, for example, just by helping.
Yeah, no, true, man. That's still the thing that I enjoy doing, and I think that I'll assist for as long as I can. I don't have a kind of a due date where I'm saying I'm not going to be assisting at this time, because that is a form of study and kind of being in university. And as technology changes, and it is rapidly changing every single year, you kind of need to up your game. or understand which programs are people using to kind of to tether with or to sync their photographs with. Like it's just sometimes it's that basic, but it's also it's just understanding how you need to evolve as technology evolves. But also everybody has a different skill or a different way of doing things, and it's learning that, and that adds value to your own craft.
And then marketing yourself too.
True. I mean, I'm not against studying at uni. Like I think like studies is great. It all depends on what you're wanting to do. So obviously, if you're wanting to lecture, I think that it adds a lot of value in understanding how a curriculum runs throughout the year and how you could possibly teach. Because if you haven't experienced the space of sitting down, receiving whatever the lecturer is giving you from a photography perspective, and you go out and teach, you wouldn't know if you're kind of bettering the curriculum that was taught to you. So you need context. So I think whether you choose to study formally, that's cool. Whether you choose to study informally, it's also cool because everybody has a different way of learning.
Chatting about marketing, how do you market yourself at this stage?
Like now, it's just been word of mouth. So I want to say I aggressively go out to meet people. So if it's at an event, I want to connect and get to know people first before what they're doing. I just want to know, I kind of sense their energy. Because to me, it's not as important about what you're doing. If we connect, we can always find a way of working together or collaborating together on something. But that's the way I've been marketing myself. And obviously using social media platforms, but then also signing up with agencies, because to me, that is the core of where I get my work from. So I know that I'm signed up to an agency. They know they know the work that I've shot before, and they know what work's coming in. And they could meet my work with that particular work that's coming in as well.
Yeah, I think from a brand's perspective, it's nice to have that relationship because it's one thing to see your website, but you know what? Normally the website images does not say much about that person's personality.
So true.
So it's nice to have that relationship first, establish that, almost become a friend, and then get the work.
Sure, so true. Yeah, and that's how I think I've also scored a lot of jobs in Joburg. I mean, like it's people's reception in Joburg has just been amazing. Like I've been grateful. I mean, to yourself also, Isley, like just giving people like myself and other people the opportunity to showcase our work. And I'm honestly grateful for that because it gives opportunity to a bigger platform and to more people just to get to know you. So yeah.
It's kind of exciting to see that. That you choose to go that way. Because, like we've said earlier, Cape Town can be a really clicky place. And that's how you actually break those clicks open. And the people that decide to stay within the clicks, they're the ones perpetuating that nonsense.
Sure.
And if we're going to make change, we've got to do something differently.
Yeah.
When you approach people, do you put yourself in a particular set of shoes, or do you just go as all? Take on a character.
I go as all, because I always feel like if that's the person that they're meeting for the first time, that's the person that they probably want to meet the second and third time. So if it fails the first time, then, and it's failed a lot, but I think that it's practice as well, so I wasn't always very comfortable approaching people. I was a friendly guy, but I wasn't comfortable. But I literally had to tell myself years ago, okay, this is what you do in order to approach someone else that you may be intimidated by. So you have a strategy in place, and then that strategy just becomes normal, and then you can kind of freestyle it, as you go along.
I think for many people that want to get into street photography, that is a problem, approaching people and asking for the photo. What are some of the tips and tricks you can tell our listeners?
Sure.
You said you had a strategy in place.
So I was thinking about strategy in terms of marketing. When you're marketing yourself, but when it comes to street photography, sometimes I don't even shoot a lot of people. I'll shoot a lot of spaces, and I'll shoot people might be in the spaces, but their faces won't be shown. But when it comes to if I'm shooting a project, then it's a different thing. Then I'll go out like a month before, getting to know the community, because that's because of my NGO work, I had access to community spaces. So I went out a month before and told the community members and told some of the community leaders that, listen here, this is the project that I'm wanting to do. and this is the content that I'm wanting to create. So they would take me around. I'll meet the people in the community. Then I'll come back maybe the next week, or the next month, and then I'll have access to shoot people freely. You know, so that's the strategy that I use, because I find it very hard sometimes shooting street portraits if I don't have the permission. You know? So everybody engages with it differently, and that to me is okay.
But it's very important, because we've had a discussion with a lot of photojournalists, and they do exactly that. If there's a political event happening a week later, they actually go and introduce themselves to the community members so that they've got free access. Otherwise, they won't be able to take those pictures.
So true, man. And it helps. It opens up. I feel that you're also able to create even so much more amazing images, or create more amazing moments, you know, they say. And that's a lasting relationship. It's not just an image and then peace out. You haven't built a relationship with the community.
Street photography in general, Earl, who are the guys that you look at? Who inspires you?
Sure. At the moment, Lee Davids. I think his surname's Davids. But Lee, I mean, he lives in Joburg. I'm sure you know him. I'm not sure if you know him. Okay, I'm going to share.
No.
Like, his work is insane. So from a local guy who lives in Joburg, the way he sees the city and sees the world is, I admire his photography. And I chatted to him in the week. We're actually going to be doing an episode of Why the Fujifilm. His work's insane. I don't even know just what he sees, man. Like I don't understand how he sees those things.
maybe it's a good idea to just explain to the listeners what WTF is all about.
So WTF, it's not that other WTF, it's the good WTF. So it's titled Why the Fujifilm, and it's a collaboration between myself, Fujifilm, and I'll say Esley. And it really is just sharing stories about people that use the Fujifilm brand. So we'll start off with it's only two questions. How did you get into photography, and why do you enjoy using the Fujifilm system? Because I feel that each system allows you to accomplish a particular goal. And through doing these interviews, I've learned so much about how people use their system and their tool to accomplish their goal. And yeah, it's been a fun, cool little project to work on.
So, obviously the next question, why the Fujifilm for you? Why
the Fujifilm for me? It's you know what, I always say, aesthetically, it's freaking beautiful. Like, you know, that to me is the first point. Like, if you're looking for the most beautiful camera or the most beautiful tool in the world, there you go. Say no more. And then also from the functionalities, just the way it functions, the way it handles. To me, those are also important. The ability to customize every single thing on the camera and to tailor to the way you enjoy shooting. Hey, man. And then, you know, I mean, it's last but not least is the image quality. Just what you're able to achieve. So to me, it's like you can accomplish your vision through that particular system and the tool. And that to me is why I enjoy using it.
Earl, where can we find you on social media and internet?
Okay, on social media, I'm on Instagram, I'm at Earl_A_, and then on my website, I'm earlabrams.format.com, and then Facebook, just Earl Abrams.
Awesome. Listeners, we really want to encourage you, if you follow Earl, please look at where he's headed and try and introduce yourself to them. This guy's incredible, and we are strongly of the opinion that he's going to go far in the photographic industry. Thank you, Earl, for joining us in the studio today.
Blessings, man. Cool.
brandlive.co.za